This isn't your average flood. This is the sludge that came out of the reservoir in Hungary. And keep in mind these waters, this sludge is highly toxic. Highly toxic, and look how it's covering these streets and how it's surrounding the cars and just everywhere that it's covering. Try to get my camera back in place. Now, I'm sure all of you have heard about the toxic sludge spill in Hungary by now. And for any of you who maybe haven't been paying attention to the news, on Monday, October the 4th, there was this huge waste reservoir at an aluminum plant, and it burst, and it had all this toxic sludge, which you saw in the video just a moment ago, that came pouring out. There was literally this flood of sludge. It's run through the streets of 2 villages, and it, damaging homes and sweeping cars off the street and causing people to receive these chemical burns on their skin. It talked about how like the burns will even occur through the clothing once the chemical had the chance to seep through the clothing. I've heard that at least 4 people have been killed and 120 had to go to the hospital because of the burns, and there were 3 that were left missing. It's this ecological catastrophe. But the problem is now this is going to get even worse, it seems, because this sludge has now made its way to the Danube River. The Danube is it's Europe's largest waterway, and now there are several nations that are at risk of being contaminated as well, because the Danube flows through Croatia and Serbia and Romania, Bulgaria, Ukraine, and forgive me if I'm pronouncing this wrong, Moldova, perhaps. And then it flows on into the Black Sea. There was a smaller waterway that was contaminated first. Now all of the life in this one has died, and officials are trying to prevent the dead fish in it from floating downstream and contaminating further waters and further fish and everything. It's interesting because this past summer, I think most people would have easily agreed that the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico was the worst environmental catastrophe to have ever occurred. People wondered how the waters, how the wetlands, how the Gulf Stream could ever recover from what happened. But see, the sad thing is, by the looks of it, this recent disaster with the sludge has the potential to easily surpass that, it seems. And it's interesting, they don't even know yet how this one happened. The reservoir apparently had passed a safety inspection not too long ago. I'm not sure if it was a matter of months or what. I would have to look it up. But they found no signs of wear or damage of any kind, or no reason to think there was any danger. And now Hungary has opened a criminal probe to look into it. Was this something that occurred because of employee negligence? Did the workers not do their jobs properly, not do their jobs as they were supposed to? Was there a possibility that this was intentional? I don't know if any of the officials have mentioned the possibility of terrorism yet. something that could be interesting to consider and interesting to look into is a possible false flag. And anyone who might be watching this and is not familiar with what a false flag is, I would recommend doing a study on it and seeing what you find. There's some interesting information out there. Whatever the case may be, it's a good idea to pay attention to this whole situation with the oil and the Corexit in the Gulf Stream and, well, Gulf of Mexico, I guess, would be better to say, but with the oil and the Corexit in the Gulf of Mexico and the toxic sludge that's now in the Danube River, it leaves you wondering, how will this affect, well, first of all, how will this affect the wildlife in the areas and their habitats? How will this affect the people, whether in the area or even potentially further off as these things continue to spread? One of the things I forgot to mention that I saw was where some of the mud has been drying up now, but it's been contaminated. It's been drying up and turning into dust, which now has the potential to be caught up in the wind, and if the wind blows it, then that will further spread the contamination that way. So not only do they have to worry about the waterways, there's now the potential of, you know, it flying through the wind, but you just have to wonder what extent will the damage be, what extent will the effects of all of this be. I'm leaving some links here in the box below. Feel free to check those out and leave me any comments if you like, telling me what are your thoughts on all of this.